Hi, this is Rob Sheen with the Source Conference, and I'm here with Haydn Johnson, who's going to be speaking at the Source Phoenix Mesa event coming up on February 28th and March 1st. So that's coming up in a few weeks. We're looking forward to that. And Hayden, your talk is on humane security in a world of business. And you've actually done a little play of
Yeah.
words on humane. So tell us a little bit about your talk.
So, my talk is humane or human because security works in a business which is with people. They try to make profit and whatnot. And I just wanted to build out the idea that the most efficient way for us to help security is through human interactions. So the relationships we have sort of inspired me to work on those skills to talk from everyone from the CIO, CO, CTO to the juniors in the team, such as a co-op or a help desk or things like that.
Cool. Yeah, the reason why your talk kind of jumped out at me was the conference itself. We've been shifting focus a little bit to really focus on people and communications, and that's exactly what your talk is about. So now you mentioned relationship building a lot. I was wondering if maybe you could provide some specific examples of times where building a relationship helped get security done.
Well, I guess I'll go back. Relationships sort of, I learned that they were really helpful because I used to be extremely technical and a pen tester and focus on the exploit code. And then I was doing the pen test and handing a report away. And sometimes the client or someone was like, so what? Why? What matters? So what I was learning was that a lot of my skills in not just handing the report over, but talking them through the actual exploit or the data that's involved, the reputation of the business, and then having a back and forth conversation with them really added a lot of value for them. And in return, I learned that, this cross-site scripting attack that I think is all critical might actually be minimal if it's only touching, say, someone's date of birth, not a credit card. Like there is context with what's actually
Hmm.
happening. So I get a lot of examples from my consulting days is dealing with clients and walking through them the pen test report.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good one. I've actually seen that in real life myself. It's a lot of times when we're really deep into technical stuff, we get focused on the technical stuff and sometimes lose sight of the fact that context actually does matter, and that maybe the people you're giving the report to don't have the context to understand what it is you just mentioned to them, even so they might not even understand what the issue
Yeah.
is.
I
Um,
see a lot on Twitter or a lot of the podcasts where they're like, "Oh, this super awesome exploit code is really great, but it's going to work in 1% of 1,000 chances. So the relevance or criticalness is quite lower than the exploit code and what they've done, their skill is really amazing, but in the context of business and all the different priorities they have to deal with security, it's not really doesn't scratch the surface of what they should be focusing on."
right, right. Now, it sounds like from reading through your abstract and your notes that you've kind of done some work around getting in the mindset of the non-security person. So I was wondering if you could just shed a little bit of light on, how do non-security people think differently about security than we do?
Well, for example, one of our juniors in the IT ops teams is a bit hashtag, I guess, or quote unquote pessimistic. So every time I say, "Oh, how cool is this exploit?" or this Mandiant report, like, see what they did there. He's like, "Oh, as if that would happen here. The chance of that happening is nothing." It's like, hang on a minute. No, I'm like totally into security and these things are amazing and really interesting. But I was starting to get experience where, say, this guy is showing me that there are different mindsets to security and we can get caught in that bubble. So when I talk to my manager or upper management or say a girlfriend or boyfriend or family, their view is totally different. And the way it differs is that security to them is seen as a cost, or like, why should my password be 20 characters long? What a pain in the A to have to type that out
Mm.
and remember that. Why are you asking me 10 million questions for my credit card when I just want to pay a bill and things like that? So with that in mind, it allows me to think of their position ahead of time to try to have as much influence as I can when I speak to them about security. Because if I can understand that their attention span is 1/10 of mine for security, it gives me a better way to talk about security in a more positive way that might have something actually be done. So it's sort of like thinking about explaining security in an elevator pitch, like down 5 floors. How do you spit it out quickly? They get the important bits, and they're like, "Oh, that makes sense," without them going, "No, you're just a Mr. No. You don't let us do anything, and you cost us money or time and effort."
Right, right. Definitely some interesting points. Um, One of the things I've definitely seen is a huge problem is this communications gap between the business folks and the security folks and the security folks and the technical folks. And we all kind
Yeah.
of speak slightly different vocabularies. And I've been telling people recently when I speak to security people, like, the buck's got to stop with us. We got to just get better at this. So um, we got to start, not just being able to do it, but be able to teach other people in our field how to do it. Do you have any thoughts on like
Mm.
how we can get the message out wider to more of our peers?
Well, that's a lot why I was doing this talk, because a lot of my talks have been more technical focused, but I do a lot of my talks to share knowledge and help people and think that my experiences aren't so unique. I think other people can learn. So I think talking and presenting is a great way, but the real problem I find is that our security conferences like the B-Sides or Circle City Con or NolaCon, things like that, it's a bit of an echo chamber. And a lot of the culture is that really red team or defensive team technical aspects. So on the defensive, it's like how we detect PowerShell, or on the red team, it's how we use PowerShell to get to the domain control and dump credentials. So it's just the nature of the beast of the crew of InfoSec, the little bubble within a bubble, and then there's many bubbles in there. So I think growing awareness is just speaking and blogging and tweeting, because on our Twitter we have a great community, but I think we also have a small niche community where, again, we have the echo chamber, but there's a lot of InfoSec drama. So if we can expand our ideas and look at other industries or look at those that communicate well, so that is really the way to help others learn to communicate, is just saying it's important. We value your technical skills very much. The amount of hours you put in and how to learn is hell. But the communication skills, even if you just put 1/10 of the effort into learning it,
Mm-hmm.
you will get much further, and you will feel a lot less frustrated when dealing with your boss or dealing with management who think about financials and the dollars instead of code.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've definitely seen some of that myself, like as I've become more senior and less technical, and I can still be technical, but I have definitely
Mm,
much more on the business side these days. It's given me a new perspective on the way I probably perceived my boss back 20 years ago and what they went through. I probably just didn't have any clue what they were actually trying to manage. I was like fixated on some technical detail, but in
yeah.
reality, it didn't really matter compared to did the business
Mm.
get done? So cool. Well,
You mentioned that, sorry, I was going to say you
yeah, yeah.
mentioned that security and struggling with management, the communication breakdown is on
Mhm.
us. That is true, because if I was reading an article about consultants, how they learn, and how people will say that externally they will blame things. So like the client didn't want us to teach them. The client wasn't open to our new ideas, which is valid. But the only thing we can change is ourselves. So we have to actually look internally and think, how can I, with these current restrictions, like a pen tester, with these little holes, how can I get the most value in communicating with management or with a non-security person? And it's all about looking at yourself and sort of tuning your skills to the way the field is. Because there's a lot of security talks I've been to, and the people, like, I kept screaming at them, I kept putting it in front of their faces, and they wouldn't listen to me. And that's fair, that's frustrating, but you have to play by their rules, uh, which is
Right.
unfortunate
Yeah.
or
Well,
fortunate. They
it's
make the money and the rules.
yeah, exactly. I don't see it as fortunate or unfortunate. It's just a thing. It's like you just
Yeah,
it's like the thing happens, which is unless you're really compelling, they're not going to listen to you. Or even if you are, maybe they're not going to listen to you because they might have they have different weight on different priorities, right? And if if ultimately
exactly.
it's their business that's at risk and they're choosing to sign off on the risk, well, that's their right. Now, I
Yeah.
personally think that a lot of them sign off on things they don't understand, so I think it is on us to try to help better educate what we're actually getting them to sign off on. But at the same, at the end of the day, it is their risk. So, um, it's an interesting balancing point for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, great. Well, I definitely look forward to continue this conversation at the Source Phoenix Mesa conference coming up in a few weeks. And for those of you who want to jump in and join the conversation with us, definitely come on down to the conference. And it's on February 28th and March 1st. And
Yep.
hopefully I'll see a lot of you there. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.